Kogan, Man Cave Classroom 810. Today analyzing a map.
Maps.
We'll focus it on this one, but of course, just like any document that we analyze, it almost seems like we can't analyze one document without bringing in other documents.
Yeah.
So we'll start here, and I'm sure we'll need these to explain something that we're talking about. So I'm drawn to the key right here.
Yeah, you can't analyze a map without understanding what you're looking at.
So we have fort, battle, treaty, reservation. So maybe I guess we'll find some forts here.
Yeah, Fort Sumner, Fort Lyon,
Fort
Fort
Laramie.
Laramie, Fort Atkinson. Forts. Who lives in forts?
Unless you're a kid that's making a fort in your living room with mom's comforters, these are going to be military forts.
Military forts.
And they're out west.
Yeah. Need military forts as protections against attacks, as a defense.
As a presence.
As a presence as well.
Because now the next one here is battle. So now we have Bighorn, we have Rosebud, we have Fetterman, we have Wounded Knee,
Black Hills, yeah.
Sand Creek, and there might be one or two that we're
We're
missing.
getting a bunch of battles close to these forts. Right there.
Right.
3 right here.
Now, here's the interesting thing too. When you're looking at a regular U.S. map, it just says Utah, Arizona. Now we have territories.
Mm-hmm.
We have Indian territory. We have Oklahoma territory.
I'm seeing these names: Chickasaw, Seminole Creek, and Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
That's bringing back to me the Trail of Tears.
There we go.
The forcible removal, the Indian Removal Act, the forcible removal of these 5 tribes who were native to the southeast of the United States, being forced out west. This is even during Andrew Jackson's presidency.
And the great thing is that now we have an approximate date that's giving us an idea. We have 1890. So these forts do give us, these battles give us dates. We have 1876, 1866, 1890. So now we have some historical context.
All right, so 1890, I think back to 1803, Louisiana Purchase.
Bing!
Doubled the size of the United States, really marked the beginning of our westward expansion. Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea.
Yep.
Is that her name?
Yeah, you got it.
Sacagawea, helping Lewis and Clark, but this marks the official beginning of our westward expansion. Now, manifest destiny.
Sure.
Our God-given right to move westward. Very ethnocentric belief.
Oh yeah.
That it was our God-given right because it's a complete. Don't know the word I'm looking for. Denial, complete.
That other people might exist.
Yeah,
that have culture
and have existed
yeah.
on this land for thousands of years, long before Christopher Columbus, long before the Vikings ever set sail. This was Native American land.
And the reason why you have these forts there, the reason why you have these battles there is because, we have reservations, of course. Help me with my eyes here. We have reservations there we go. So the much darker areas is showing you that these reservations where Native Americans were being pushed off of their land and put onto, when you look at all of that land that once belonged to Native Americans, they're now
all of it.
Yeah,
all of it.
They're now on these little patches. They're now on all these little patches, which means, of course, you're not just going to voluntarily and willfully just give over your land. So there's going to be some conflict, which is why you have, the presence of military forts, which is why you have these skirmishes and battles.
I do notice a lack of reservations in this particular area here, with the exception of Utah. This also was the path of the Transcontinental Railroad.
Sure.
I'm sure the American government wanted to keep Native Americans away from the railroads.
See, I look at the reservations, and then there's something else that comes to mind: Starburst and Skittles. When I had Starburst when I was a kid, wait for it, it's coming. When I had Starburst as a kid, I didn't like to share Starburst because they're great. So then my mother would make me share them with my brother, and what am I going to give him? I'm going to give him the yellow ones because I don't want the yellow ones. So I really think of this as, these yellow Starbursts. This is probably land, and we know that when Native Americans were being pushed off land, hey, if we found gold in one area, you now have to move. If this land is fertile and suitable for farming, we're not giving you the good land. We're giving you, the yellow Starburst.
Two of the R's of westward expansion: the relocate,
yep,
and then repossess. that like we first gave them this land. We're like, look, we know we're pushing you off of your land, so we'll give you this area that we're setting aside for you. We're gonna relocate you to these reservations. And then it was like you said, oh, but then we discovered gold on this
Right.
land. Now, this is where the phrase Indian giver comes from.
Right.
We're going to take back what we once gave from you because we actually decided we wanted. You know, this repossess of the land we've already given to you. And then eventually we get into the reform because then we're like, they keep fighting us.
Right.
They keep attacking us. Let's try to make them more like us with like the Carlisle Indian Industrial School in Pennsylvania.
And I'm glad you're bringing up the whole Indian Removal Act from Jackson's era, and you know, you're talking about where they are right now. You know, there they are now. You know, they were pushed out here. You know, they had a much larger share of land, and now you're getting this.
And not only that, but like if you go back to like Native American cultures, Native Americans learned to adapt to their environment. That's why the Great Plains relied on the buffalo. They lived in it, they ate it, they wore it. The Native Americans of the eastern woodlands adapted to living in a forest, the desert Southwest. So now you're taking Native Americans who had adapted to living in the southeastern part of the United States and moved them out to the Great Plains, where there's really nothing. So their culture, another one, you know, died out because of what we were doing to them.
And then the other part is that you're also trying to keep them on the reservation. That's the whole point of it. You know, the Great Plains, they were roaming throughout the plains, hunting buffalo. You want them to stay put, so you keep an eye on them.
Yes.
This way
Good
they're not
point.
in trouble. And they're forcing them to become farmers. That
Yeah.
was part of that whole boarding school
The
thing.
Sioux were very nomadic
Right.
because they had to follow the buffalo.
Yes.
Wherever the buffalo were, that's where they were.
There's another map in here. I thought we'd be able to bring something in. I mean, we talked about that whole, the United States expanding. You know, you bring up the Louisiana Purchase, you know, all of these areas. And another thing, going back, you know, when you're looking at the fact that these are territories, in order for them to become states, you need a population there, you need a government there, you need a thriving community here. So, you know, they're not just states just yet, they're territories. Trying to think of some other things here. When we look at this can also be talking about, if you're looking at innovation or technological advancement, you know, this could be the negative piece of it for the Native Americans.
Yeah.
You know, being pushed off their land. You know, you had that, as you mentioned, you know, the whole transcontinental railroad that is benefiting the United States, but who is it hurting? It's hurting, you know, the Native Americans.
I'm also noticing just
Yeah.
some dates here, 1866, 1867. You know, we're talking just after the Civil War. Slavery has been abolished.
Yep.
Many of the American soldiers who were fighting against these Native Americans were former slaves. You know, they became known as the Buffalo Soldiers.
Yep.
You know, just kind of.
And it's interesting that we have the dates. I mean, the fact that you have the dates on here is really giving you a good idea of just how long this was. I mean, your earliest date here is 1864. You know, of course, we can talk about the disaster for Custer at Little Bighorn, but a lot of, I mean, it does cover quite a bit of a time span here. We look at 1864 to, you know, 1890. That was a good one.
Yep.
Okay, anything else you want to cover this from this map? Americans moved west. You know, that was the title of this. So if you were to analyze this and you're using this for an essay, you're writing a paper, whatever the case may be, you know, important to look at the source itself. That was something we may have should have looked at it first, but it doesn't matter because we were really drawn to this, which sparked a much more lively discussion. But when you're looking at the source, and certainly when you're looking at this map, that can also tell you the purpose of this map. You know, Americans are moving west. That should tell you, you know, time period, even though they give you dates and what's going on, manifest destiny, Americans moving west.
Yep.
Anything else? All right, cool. Thank you for watching.